Hello everyone, welcome to a new video on the channel. Today we are doing the August end of the month reading update. I have, let me count, 6 books to talk about, and we're going to get straight into it. So the first book that we're going to talk about today is Business or Pleasure, and this was the book club read for the romance book club that I belong to. It is by 𝓬𝓲𝓭 and I'm a big fan of this author. I gave this 4.5 stars. Really enjoyed it. Really liked the take on romance and how sex is involved in that. So this follows an actor, and he is quite nerdy, and he has been through quite a lot on his journey as an actor, and he is writing a memoir, and the main female character is his ghostwriter. And before they start working together on the story, they actually meet in another setting and have this wonderful night together where they really connect as people. And then they go back to his hotel room and she has the worst sex of her life and flees. So they have this massive awkward moment when they start working together. I really liked the fact that this book had a lot of honesty in it. So instead of miscommunication tropes being used, I really enjoyed that both characters would come up and just say, hey, this is something that's bothering me, or this is something that I can't ignore anymore, let's talk about it. Really loved that about this book. And so the main male character asks the female character for advice and tips on how to become better in bed, and you can guess where this is going. They fall in love with each other because they're really sweet together. It was just that he needed some help in the bedroom department, and I really like how the author did this. I did find the end a little bit cliche and struggled with a little bit of the pacing towards the end, but otherwise really enjoyed this one. And then next on the list is I Hate You More by Lucy Gilmore. I read this as an audiobook, so listened to it, and I gave it 2.5 stars. This follows a young lady who used to be a pageant queen. She used to do all the pageants, and is now working in a nursing home, and her job is kind of not the greatest, but she loves this little old lady, and she has a dog who she really wants to enter the canine classic, and he's not purebred, but because the lady asked for it, she did it. She had the paperwork and everything, so she takes it off and tries to enter this canine classic dog show, and the main judge on it basically said, reluctantly, due to a situation, takes the application form, but says that the dog needs to lose a lot of weight, needs to go on a training program because the dog is not trained. Well, it is, but it isn't. And then, of course, he has a twin brother who happens to be a dog trainer, so she's working with him to try and get the dog ready. And there was sort of like a animosity level between them in the beginning, and then that develops into something more. I found that the biggest problem I had with this is that it was the romance came out of nowhere. There was no real build-up. Suddenly his pants were down and he was doing things in front of her. And I just was like, okay, so is there going to be more build-up here? No, they kind of just start doing more things. So I found it really challenging. Also, there was a lot of woe is me. Like the main male character felt as if he was the weaker twin in every way, and she is dealing with being just mediocre now. She's not on the pageant stage, and it's just a little bit too much. Didn't really enjoy it. Was quite hard to get through, and normally I can listen to audiobooks in one day or like a couple of days, but this one took me several days to get through. And yeah, so gave it 2.5 stars. The next read I actually read as an ARC, but it's come out now, so I have it is a physical book. Let me just grab that for you. It is Her Radiant Curse by Elizabeth Lim, and this was the top read of August. and it was also the only 5-star read of the month. This is the prequel to Six Crimson Cranes. This follows Chernari and her tragic story on how she becomes her radiance in the main series. This book was one of the ones I've been waiting for all year long, and I was so relieved that I got it as an ARC because I just didn't want to wait any longer. Unfortunately for me, I ended up having to read it very close to the day that it was dropped due to schedules and stuff. Didn't get to it fast enough. So this one was exactly what I was expecting. A very tragic but beautifully written story about a young girl who loves her sister so much that she risks everything for her. And there's curses, there's magic. If you've read an Elizabeth Lim book, you know exactly what kind of enchanting worlds she writes, and this was just fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Love all the little Easter eggs that make things in Six Crimson Cranes click. You could definitely read this before reading the main series, and then you would get those little moments like, oh, that's from this book here. But I actually prefer the way that the author has released these. So with Six Crimson Cranes and The Dragon's Promise are the first 2 books, and then reading this afterwards, because it would really hit differently. You get to see the characters in this book in a very different light in the main series, so getting them from this point of view was just fantastic. Also, this character Chernari was my favourite in Six Crimson Cranes, which is funny because she was so very like minimal on the page, but her impact to Shiori was great. So yeah, really loved this, gave it 5 stars. And then the next book I read, and it was the last physical copy that I've got to share today, is Last Violent Call by 𝓤𝓮. This is a 2 novella set book. It's very short. Each novella is about 112 pages long, and it is set in this secret Shanghai world or universe that this author has written. So you have the first 2 books, which is These Violent Delights, Our Violent Ends, and then I thought this goes in between, but it actually doesn't. It's Foul Lady Fortune, which is the sequel series, and then this, and then it'll be Foul Huntsman, which is, I think, the last book in the series. I gave this 3 stars. Now, there's nothing to hate on, like, truly, in what happens. Is there a need for these? Not really. This is more of a cash grab by the marketing team and perhaps the author. I really get reluctant to add the author into these, but definitely a cash grab. These novellas could have been released on 𝓤𝓮's website or in a newsletter, or like for a small digital fee. We could... like for a fee for a digital copy, we could have got these. I paid full price for this book, so I'm quite salty about it. I thought it would have like really vital information in it for the series that would connect things a bit more. And whilst there is some foreshadowing and some like hinting towards what is going to happen next in the series, it wasn't enough for me. It was very much so reading like a fanfic. So if you loved Roma and Juliet from the first books, then, you know, you're getting some serotonin for reading this when you think about them and them getting their happy ever after. And then again with the other 2, Marshall, is it Marshall? Yeah, Marshall and Benedict. Again, you get some like swoony moments that you're like, oh, I'm so happy for them, but I didn't really need it, if that makes sense. I can't fault the author, like nothing's poorly written, it's just that it's just extra content at the end of the day, and it doesn't seem to me that it's needed. And I bet you anything what was shared in here will be like 2 paragraphs in the next book and we won't even need it. So yeah, I'm fortunate about that because I thought it would be more vital than it actually was. The next read was an ARC, and it was Main Character Energy by Jamie Varon, and I gave this also 3 stars. Now, this one is a tricky one in a sense of, did I read this at the right time? Absolutely. Has it helped me? Absolutely. But from a fiction point of view, was it written well? No. So this is written by a self-help author. I don't know if they've written fiction before, if this is their fiction debut, but on Goodreads I found 2 self-help books, and that made a lot of sense when I found that. I was about halfway through the book and I was like, does this person write self-help? Because the quotes in this book are very like life coach motivational, like there's things like don't let excuses leave you on the sidelines of your own life and things like that. And whilst the lines about the writing, because this main character in this is a writer, but she's struggling to get published, she's given up. And her beloved aunt that she has been meeting in secret, unfortunately passes away, and she inherits this villa in France, and she has to, in order to inherit it, she has to finish her book, have a manuscript within 6 months written, and what was the other thing? I can't remember what the other thing was, but basically she has to do that, and it's what the house doubles as is like a writer's retreat for selected people each term to come and write and get their books like in a checked out, like in a empowering sort of environment. So like you have the support of each other who's writing at the same time and who's having struggles with their writing as well. So from a writing aspect, because I do dabble in writing, it was really like the right time for me to be hearing, like, you need to just try, you need to just keep going, like, is fear letting you back, holding you back? You know, those little comments in the book were really well timed for me, but from a fictional character point of view, I found both the storyline and the character development to be quite weak and lacking in execution. Yeah. Great, powerful, like life motivational quotes, but I didn't sign up for a self-help book, so I felt really weird because I wanted to like it and there were elements to like, but then it felt as if the characters that had all the little motivational quotes were just propelled injected into the storyline when the main character needed to be propelled along, and then they'd disappear again, and like the main character, Poppy, I think her name is, she would have these empowered moments and be like, yes, I can do things, I'm amazing, and then 5 minutes later she's like, I'm horrible, I can't do anything, I've had one big issue that's just come up and suddenly I can't do anything in the life and woe is me, and felt very robotic in the way that she reacted. So it's unfortunate because I did have high hopes for this. Also, there was a small issue that is not anything to do with the book, but the publisher, because this I got as an ARC, originally listed this as a graphic novel, and the picture, like the cover for this book, was really like engaging for me. I was like, oh, I would love to read a graphic novel with like images like this in it, and unfortunately it's not a graphic novel. It was an actual fiction book, so a little bit of errors there on the marketing side of things, but overall 3 stars. And then the last book that I listened to was called Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. This is a YA romance, and I gave it 4 stars, but only just. This was really cute. I had a little bit of a struggle getting into it at first, but essentially this follows 2 people who go to school with each other, but also are fighting a war on Twitter for their companies. So the female character, her mother owns a big like burger joint company that's taking over America, and the main male character, his family has for generations been, or for years anyway, working from like the East Village with this little cute deli that they make the cutest sandwiches, and then one person steals the other's name of the sandwich, and then they end up having Twitter wars. Sounds weird. And for a while there I was like, am I really reading a book about this? But it was really cute. It was more so about watching 2 kids grow and learn to stand up for themselves and what they would and wouldn't do. It was also really interesting watching how the adults in this world treated them, and was quite eye-opening. As an adult myself, I would never want to treat a teenager in the way that these two were treated, especially the female character. Her mother is a piece of work, really. Expecting her teenage daughter, who's also trying to do so well in school and impress everyone and get into the best college and everything like that, to like manage a social media account when they already have an employee for the company that's supposed to be doing that. It was just weird. And the expectations her mother had on her daughter to work for the company without being paid, without, do you know what I mean? Like, it was really weird. And that was a little bit glossed over, which is probably why I dropped it to 4 stars. But again, I said I barely made it 4 stars. But I did like how it progressed, and I did like the relationship and the connection between the two main characters. It was an enjoyable read. I listened to it all in one day. And yeah, I can't really fault it for too much. I just think it was really eye-opening for the way adults treat kids. That was my list. I do have a DNF on my list. I didn't finish Not the Witch You Wed by April Asher. Really wanted to like it, but only got 20 pages in. And so I think I'm just not a fan of paranormal romances. I don't know. I keep getting in, like, picking them up, and they're just too surface level for me, I guess. I'm not really sure what that is, but I find just in this book specifically, I found the language to be a problem. Adults saying the words poo-poo and stuff like that. It was just really weird behaviour, so ended up giving up on it pretty quick. Which was a funny one because I had been holding off from reading this for the longest time. I keep getting it out from the library, and I could have just saved myself the hassle. So that is my reading log completed for the month of August. I read a total of 11 books, and I had the lowest rating, I think, all year for my average. I think it's 3.4. I will definitely be doing the monthly wrap up for you all, so you'll be able to see that. Until then, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Have you read any of these books? If so, let me know how you experienced them, and I hope that you have a great reading month ahead of you. Bye everyone.